So hello everybody. We're going to do chapter 18 tonight. And the important point about chapter 18 is we're going to learn about 3 different methods to value a project and to value an acquisition and find out what the cost is for each of them and what they're worth. And we're going to use 3 different methods tonight. The first one we're going to use is the weighted average cost of capital. Right? The next one we're going to do is called the adjusted present value method, which will come directly after this. And then we're going to do the flow to equity method. The important point to remember is that the outcome, the result, will be the same for all 3. And we'll see that tonight. And the imperfection we're going to add tonight will be taxes. All right. So the first one we want to look at is here's the weighted average cost of capital. And I want to show you, I'm going to jump ahead a little bit because what I want to show you is how they go, their procedure. Okay, so first we're going to value a project. So we're going to go through the mathematics to value a project that they're going to take. Okay, so that's number 1. And then I guess maybe I can highlight that, right? Let's highlight that. So we're going to value a project. The next thing, and the company is going to be called Avco. The next thing we're going to do is we are going to value, if I can get to the right spot. Oh, I jumped ahead, so let me go back a little bit. Sorry. I should shrink this a little bit more. What I want to do is show you that we do an acquisition and and a project. So here's the project. And over here, as you can see, we value an acquisition. It's kind of small. So let me blow that up a little, right? So let me go down here. So we will then value an acquisition using the weighted average cost of capital. So we will do 2 things, and then we're going to repeat that process for all 3 methods. So that will be that. All right. So then what we do is we'll go to the next page. And we'll talk about debt equity ratios. Number 2, we're going to then basically do the adjusted present value method. And we're going to come up with the same answers, of course, as I said. But we'll use this method to value a project and an acquisition. So we'll do that. Except the mathematics is a little different, but at the end we'll end up with the same valuation and the same net present values as you will see shortly this evening. All right. So here is the adjusted present value, and then over here we value an acquisition. So we repeat this process 3 times. So we're going to do this 3 times tonight, and all right. So then the last one we'll do is the flow to equity method. This is the 3rd and final one we'll do, and we'll see how far we get tonight. There's a lot of this chapter is very large, so we may only get through these 3 tonight. And we got to calculate the free cash flow to equity before we do this. And as I said, let me go down to the next page. And over here, we're going to use the flow to equity method, cash flow to equity, to value an acquisition. So in all 3 cases, we're going to basically value a project, and then we're going to acquire a company, and that's what we're going to do. And we'll see, again, we'll see how far we get tonight. So let me go back a little bit here. Many of these equations we covered in Chapter 15. This really builds on a lot of concepts of a Chapter 15. All right, so to value this project, we're going to start out with the expected free cash flows for the project. Let me blow this up a little bit, and we can look here. And you'll notice this is most of these are parts of an income statement. And you'll notice that the debt and the interest rates on the debt are missing here. Anything related to debt is missing. So we end up with the free cash flow basically unlevered, right? So you'll notice here that there is no debt here. And if you look here, where was Table 18.1, forecast the project's expected free cash flows. And we're going to use straight line method of valuation here, of depreciation. All right, so here is the weighted average cost of capital, and you'll notice these are all the components of, this is the equity to valuation ratio, and this is the debt to value ratio, and here's the return for the debt and the equity, and here's our tax rate, and we end up with a weighted average cost of capital of 6.8%. This is quite simple. You've seen this equation already. And we can determine the value of the project, including the tax shield from debt, because that's right here. That's included, right? Here's the tax shield, right? 6.8%. This would be unlevered without this portion here, right? Without 1 minus the tax rate. Remember that this was unlevered, but now this is levered. And we determine the value of the project, including the tax shield. And we end up with, here's the cash flows, 18 million. This 0.068 is what we just calculated, right? And that's the weighted average cost of capital. And the question is, where did these cash flows of 18 come from? And we should go back. And let me scroll down here a little bit. And you'll notice here's the free cash flows, right? From the project. So if you kind of look at the balance sheet here, we know that they invested 20 million and they have 600 million in assets. Right, so here's their total assets, and the debt is 320, and the equity is 300. We end up with total liabilities and equity of 620. The balance sheet has to even out. Here's the two cost of capital, which we use right here, right? So again, this is the big thing. This is the tax benefit of leverage here, right? And you can see the summary of how to do this. And the final step is compute the value of the investment, including the tax benefit of leverage. So everything is included in this equation. And this is probably the easiest one to do. All we do is plug numbers in here, and we're done. All right, so then we go through the same process again. And again, we value an acquisition that we made, right? And we kind of know here that basically, let me go up a minute and I read that to you. oops, wrong slide. Suppose Avco is considering the acquisition of another firm. The acquisition is expected to increase their free cash flow by $3.8 million the first year, and it's going to grow at 3% the cash flows each year. They negotiated a purchase price, so there's the initial price, right? $80 million. So the question is, how do you value this? And also, how do you get the net present value? Let me just jump back a minute. Here was the valuation we calculated from here, right? The 61.25, the value of the project. And originally we shelled out $28 million, right? The initial investment. So we were able to get the net present value simply by subtracting here for the weighted average cost of capital method. And basically what we're going to do is do this for an acquisition now, and you'll notice this simple calculation. This is the leveraged value based on a perpetuity at a constant growth rate. We've done that already, right? You know this equation. So VL is 100 million, and given the purchase price of 80 million, the net present value comes out to be 20 million for this acquisition. Now this is the acquisition, and keep in mind, this is the net present value of a project, and this is the net present value of an acquisition. So these are different. We'll be doing this, and you'll see the numbers will be coming out the same in each case. All right, and one of the assumptions we're going to make is we're going to have a constant debt-equity ratio to keep simplify everything. All right, so basically, here's the existing assets, and here's the valuation of the project. So now their total assets include the new project, and it comes out to 661.25. And because we have a 50-50 debt-equity ratio as shown here, this is our total liabilities and equity. All right, so we're going to basically take this path for all three methods. And basically, we'll go through this all tonight. Just wanted to introduce some of this stuff to you. All right, so I'll talk to you later.